Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our IATSE Visual Effects Union Community Forum. My name is Anthony Pollock. I am National Representative, West Coast Office, and I am the business agent for the Visual Effects Department under the IATSE. We have several guest speakers with us this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. And I'd like to start off by first bringing on board, introducing International Vice President, Department Director of Motion Picture, Michael Miller. Mike?
Thanks. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to address you on what is a rainy and blustery day here in Southern California. As you can see at the IA, we're very formal on a Saturday morning. Um, Please excuse the formality. I'm on my way to a labor event this morning. But I did want to take the opportunity to address our current and future visual effects IATSE employees. Look, the IATSE has been poking around organizing in visual effects for a number of years now. And in the last couple of years, we've seen very significant momentum and really significant wins in 2025. As you're going to hear from the team, we've negotiated three successful collective bargaining agreements with major studios. We're currently in negotiations with Apple, and we are seeing a lot of progress, significant momentum building. And our goal is for visual effects workers in this industry to be treated on par with all of the other immensely skilled crafts in our industry, whether it's the cinematographers, the editors, the folks you work right next to on set and in the industry every day, the shops, the facilities, the houses that provide so much of the entertainment that make these companies profitable. We are going to continue to build until you have the same portable health care, portable pension, these benefits that are going to track you from job to job. So as you move from one job to another, you don't have to be concerned about losing your health care or potentially not qualifying for your benefits. The same way they treat all of the other artists and technicians in this industry that add to their profit lines and to success of some of these amazing projects. But we'll only be successful if we continue to build on the momentum that we have, we continue to expand our outreach, and we continue to get support from the workforce themselves. We cannot, in this industry, at this time of corporate management of all of our major studios, what's called top down anymore. We can't simply call the producers and say the visual effects workers want to be union. We need to show them that their industry workforce is to the point now where they're demanding fair and equitable treatment. And the only way we can do that is by demonstrating that we represent the individuals that are working in these classifications for our employers. And so that's what we're looking to build on. We're looking to build on the successes we've had, grow our strength so we can improve on the contracts that we've negotiated, so we can provide those benefits. But we will only get that opportunity if we get your help and your support and the support from others in the industry. So we are incredibly excited about this opportunity. This is the single largest priority in organizing in the motion picture department in the IA. I'm really proud of the work that the team we have here today is going to do, and I trust many of you are aware of it, and I trust that those of you who are not yet aware of it are going to learn today a lot about the work that's getting done on behalf of all of the visual effects industry workers. So I'm incredibly proud of this group. I'm proud of the work that we've done, and most of all, I am really excited to welcome all of the visual effects workers across our country and in Canada into the United States. So thank you for this opportunity to address you this morning. I know that we are going to have a productive and exciting town hall, and we are looking to come out of it with some renewed energy, some renewed resources, and commitments to continue to grow this movement until every visual effects artist and technician in our industry has the right to a collective bargaining agreement a pension, retirement benefits, health care, and safe working conditions and fair wages. So thank you all for your time today. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you virtually, and I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can as we continue this great work in organizing visual effects. So Anthony, I'll turn it back over to you and the team. Thank you all for your great work, and certainly appreciate everyone joining us on this Saturday morning. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Vice President Miller. We appreciate your time and input. We have several speakers, as I mentioned earlier, that are joining us today. Also included our International Vice President, Vanessa Holtgrew, who is the Assistant Department Director of Motion Picture. We have, as many of you know, our visual effects team organizers with us today. We have Maggie, Chrissy, and Em that will be joining us and also speaking on behalf of the department. And we have our Visual Effects Union guest speakers, our artist Jonathan Barry, who is part of the negotiating committee and member from the Lightstorm Avatar unit. James Dornoff is on-set visual effects worker and volunteer organizer from the Visual Effects Union Advisory Council. And also we have Mac Robinson, visual effects coordinator and organizing committee member from Disney unit, that will be joining us shortly and speaking on behalf of our movement. And ultimately, you'll see that we have a chat that is available for Q&A. If there's things that come up as we are going through the program today that you'd like to put in that chat, we will be getting to those answers for you. We will also have a Q&A at the end of our program, so we can actually talk right with you live and in living color, and we can also answer some of those questions in the chat as the meeting goes. So as we continue on with our program, I'm going to turn it over to M. Patch, and we're going to take it from there.
Thanks, Anthony. And it's great to hear your words, VP Miller, and to see the support and investment into this campaign from every level of the IATSE union. To the workers, we're hoping you're here today because you agree with us and you've been wondering what the hell makes VFX workers any different from the other crew members that we've worked alongside for decades who have been able to earn a sustainable living for themselves and their families through union membership. After decades of leaving it up to the studios to try and, give us the best deal they felt like that we could individually negotiate, VFX workers the last few years have finally demanded fair contracts and union standards with a collective voice. In 2025, we achieved 4 different union contracts which were ratified and are now serving members at Lightstorm, Marvel, Disney, and SNL. We had over 200 new VFX workers join IATSE in the VFX union. We also sent the first ever VFX workers serving as delegates to the IATSE convention, where they were able to participate as voting members and give reports on the status of union and non-union visual effects workers throughout the United States. And maybe most importantly, the IATSE union has committed to forming a national VFX local, which is led by VFX workers like yourselves. So we started, with a small group of workers meeting underground, trying to find a path forward. One of our speakers, James Dornov, was one of the first people to join those underground meetings during COVID. And he's going to share more about the experience of being a non-union worker, fighting to make a difference for all VFX workers. And because of him, people like Mac Robinson and Jonathan Barry, our other speakers, and dozens of other like-minded VFX workers, we were able to achieve our first victory at Marvel Studios, then Disney, then Lightstorm, then Apple, then SNL. So this meeting is going to be focused on how workers like you were able to achieve these victories together, and how, with your help, the people in the meeting right now, we're going to continue winning union contracts for VFX workers on the client side and the vendor side in 2026. I'm going to pass it to Maggie to talk about what we were able to achieve in our Lightstorm contract.
Hi, everyone. So what did we win for Lightstorm workers? On February 9th, 2025, this year, the visual effects workers on James Cameron's Avatar sequel at Lightstorm Entertainment ratified the first visual effects collective bargaining agreement in history. This milestone follows their union recognition win in January 2024, with negotiations led by VP Miller and VP Vanessa Holcrew, Special Rep Ben Spate, myself, and 9 elected members of the Lightstorm Negotiations Committee, representing 96 visual effects workers. Their key contract gains include a 3-year contract term, preferential hiring on future Avatar films for current bargaining unit employees, access to full MPI health and pension benefits with gap coverage included, new wage scales based on a 40-hour work week with a 12-hour daily guarantee protected on current production, retroactive raises, and built-in IATSE annual increases, minimum call rates for 6th and 7th days of work, meal penalties and rest period protections, dismissal and displacement pay, job security protections and grievance procedure, protections on technological changes and subcontracting, AI language aligned with the IATSE basic agreement, increased pay for working in a higher job classification, a labor management committee established, and Juneteenth recognized as a paid holiday. None of this would have been possible without the crew's unwavering solidarity and their readiness to take strategic collective action that push negotiations forward. VFX workers now stand alongside other unionized crafts with real protections and benefits, setting a precedent that future visual effects workers can build on. And M, passing it over to you.
And I'm going to share what we have been able to achieve at Marvel and Disney. So we began with a few people like Mac, who's here today, who were working at Disney and felt, as most of you in this meeting do, that VFX workers deserve the same standards and benefits that the other union crews who we work alongside every day are able to enjoy through membership in IATSE. So over the course of a few months, these workers were able to find the time on their own, nights, weekends, afternoons, to hold one-on-one conversations with all of their VFX coworkers across their studio on every show until we were able to reach an 80+% supermajority of support. Then we demanded recognition and were able to win multiple unanimous unionization elections. And that's all because of the groundwork that this organizing committee did. And because of that unanimous victory, the negotiation committee of workers and IATSE leadership were able to win an incredible first contract, which really benefits from the decades of negotiating experience and wins that IATSE unions such as the Editorial and Camera Guild were able to achieve. So we could fold those all in. And that means that sort of unprecedented for a first contract for a new union. This contract includes nationwide scope for all Disney and Marvel productions. So wherever you're working in the United States, if you're working for this company and doing visual effects work, then you're going to be covered. Includes MPI healthcare and pension plans for VFX workers. That's portable, right? You build up your hours and that stays with you after you wrap out. We were able to achieve hourly rates of pay and a 40-hour work week with overtime for all workers with minimums which are established that ensure a living wage for VFX workers, right? Our previous minimum was minimum wage, and now we're able to set, you can pay us as much as you want, but you cannot pay us less than this. We were able to achieve meal penalties, turnaround protections, travel and idle day pay, safety protections, and also, we were able to fold in the IATSE basic agreement protections and standards, which includes protections against AI. So I'm so honored to have workers like Mac here to share his firsthand experience of what it was like going from just a conversation to the negotiating table, to ultimately being among the first VFX union members to be able to enjoy these hard-won benefits like MPI healthcare. And just to let you know, this is the makeup of the client-side units that we're representing right now. Our goal was to win a wall-to-wall union that includes every single member of the department that we're able to cover under the law. So at this point, we're basically covering everyone from the PAs and WITCAM operators up until, everyone other than the heads of the department of the VFX supervisor and producer, who, due to the legal definition of a statutory supervisor, there are objections. And, we ultimately wish to represent every single VFX worker working in the United States. But right now we have a inclusive unit which covers all of the below the line workers. And this is a precedent that, we're setting, right? We expect challenges in the future about our intention to include VFX supervisors and producers. Um, these are folks who have lots of experience, they're mentors and allies, but ultimately, as heads of department, they're not in the unit. That is just the way it is. And I know that there's questions about that. But I think the takeaway here is that almost every single person working on a show with VFX in front of their name now is able to be covered. And this is, huge after decades and decades, waiting for this. Now we're able to actually have folks like Mac and Jonathan and many, many others actually working under these contracts and enjoying the benefits. So what's next, right? Um, in 2026, we're going to inspire more successful campaigns across the industry. That's going to be the focus of today, right? Building worker-led organizing campaigns, because that's ultimately the only way that we're going to be able to grow this union into something that is going to cover, the most amount of people we can, and ultimately establishing recognized bargaining units at major studios and large vendors. That is how we're going to change this industry with our collective voice. I'm going to pass it back to Anthony to talk more about what's next.
Thanks, Em. So, as it's already been discussed, there have been some major victories in a very short period of time. And as an international representative, as a previous local officer, being associated with visual effects artists for many years in the organizing drives that we've had and challenges, etc., we are on a fantastic pace and schedule with the team that we have assembled here. The folks that are on this call, led by International Vice President Vanessa Holtgrew, and our team have made great strides with major companies. And when you see like what's next, what's on the horizon, we have other major studios that we're already reaching out to in Warner Brothers, Paramount, Netflix, etc. And we are having members who've joined the visual effects community in the union who are already starting to communicate with us about the jobs that they are beginning to take at these other organizations that will help us organize those companies as well. This is a fantastic time that we're in right now because we're seeing so many artists that are reaching out and participating and starting a community of conversations, which we didn't always have in the past. And again, I credit the team that you see on screen with us today because they've done painstaking events and time out of their days, nights, weekends, etc., to establish these relationships. And I think Jonathan, James, and Mac will touch on some of that, where a conversation started and it grew into these major contracts with major companies. And there's more to come, but we need everyone's help, participation, conversation, and community. And with that, we're going to move over to Chrissy, and she's going to explain what we won over at SNL. Go ahead, Chrissy.
Thanks, Anthony. I would love for this report to be coming from an SNL worker, but they're working on the show today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about SNL's campaign. So SNL began with just one worker. That's Dave Eber, who you can see in the back row of this photo on your screen. He reached out to us in 2023. The organizing committee itself was formed out of dedicated visual effects workers in 2024, and they began outreach. Their close relationships to editors in Local 700, as well as graphics artists in Local 829, led to them reaching out to IATSE to help. They carried out one-on-one conversations and assessed support among their coworkers. And when the time came, they voted unanimously to join the IA VFX union. Shortly afterwards, the visual effects crew held an election and voted for the negotiations committee based on nominations from the bargaining unit. Those workers consisted of veteran visual effects artists from SNL's production, and they worked alongside IA reps to create their first contract draft. In April 2025, myself, Assistant Department Director of Motion Picture and Television Production Chaim Cantor, and legal counsel Samantha Delaney worked together with Saturday Night Live's visual effects crew to negotiate a first agreement. Negotiations began in April and concluded just before the historic 50th season concluded of the show in early May of the same year. Over the course of just 9 negotiation sessions, we were able to achieve significant wins for the group, including annual wage increases, annuity contributions, ongoing health care benefits, kill fees, and AI protections. Much of the contract came from the Lightstorm agreement, as well as the existing SNL agreements with the Editors Guild, which is Local 700 of the IATSE. In June of 2025, the contract was ratified again with unanimous support. Every single SNL worker voted, and every single vote was a yes. This past September, SNL Visual Effects Negotiations Committee members Hannah Kim and Danny Behar joined the American Workforce podcast to talk about their contract gains and what union membership means to them. You can check that out at the American Workforce LaborTools.com website, which is awf.labortools.com. Give it a listen. It's a great podcast. As season 51 has begun, the workers are returning to SNL renewed and with their hard-fought wage increases. IATSE appointed David Eber, a VFX lead from SNL, to serve as shop steward and assist with enforcing the agreement. For this campaign, these workers were able to form a union consisting of members who worked just one episode. They could work just one day for the whole season and be covered under this contract and become union members. They won health care for all, as well as all of the protections the contract provides for the staff that work every episode. How did we achieve this? And we'll go to the next slide, where I'm going to talk about our method. So our organizing method starts with you. You talking one-on-one with your coworkers to find out if they'd vote yes for a union. What is their main priority for change? Would they stand in solidarity with their coworkers to vote yes to make the changes that matter to them on the job? The organizers at IATSE will train you on how to have a successful organizing conversation with your coworkers and help you process any concerns and fears that may come up. We'll educate you and your coworkers on the law as well as the strategies we have to win a union successfully. Through those conversations, you'll build an organizing committee, ideally made up of about 10% of the workforce. So, for example, a studio with 100 employees would build a committee of 10. This is something that builds over time and is not a stopgap to you continuing to work toward building your union. With the committee executing one-on-one conversation outreach to your coworkers, you'll build a supermajority of support, 80% or more of your coworkers who are ready to vote yes and form a union. Once you've achieved that, we'll sign authorization cards, which is your vote to form a union with IATSE. All of this work is done by you and your coworkers with the help and guidance of IA organizers who are trained on all of the ins and outs of forming unions successfully. You'll also have the backing of IA staff and legal to help along the way. Your union is about you and is therefore made by you. While we're talking about you, let's hear from you right now. Will you support visual effects union organizing in 2026? So a little poll is going to pop up on your screen. Pick one, yes or no. Are you in for the next year? And we'll let that run for a few minutes while we let y'all give us an answer.
Let's keep the poll open for another 10 seconds and we'll move on. We don't want to have too much
Yeah.
dead air here. That's not good for radio.
Oh my goodness, look at that. If we had an official union vote today, again, unanimous support, we'd win with 100%. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Jonathan Berry, who's going to talk about his work on the Lightstorm campaign.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Um, like Chrissy said, I'm John Barry. I worked at Avatar for 5 years, and I was lucky enough to be elected to be part of the NC. I've been in the industry actually for 17 years. I started on A Christmas Carol for Disney way back in 2008. And actually, while I was there, I was part of TAG Animation Guild for just a little while before 2008, 2009 financial crisis, and Disney wiped the whole company out. But I got my first inkling while I was there of that, there's something good about being in the union. There's definitely benefits. But unfortunately, there wasn't other places to go for VFX people or animation people. So, the years went on. I mean, it's very few and far between at that time. So, going back to Avatar, I I was I was excited, but also a little bit nervous to be elected because I know what could come from the union and the things that we could get if we collectively work together. But it's also hard and it's terrifying. Um, but luckily, I was surrounded by people at the IA. Not only people like Maggie and Ben, but we had lawyers and Vanessa Whole crew and Mike Miller talking with us all the time. Um, uh, the coworkers run amazing. The nine of us, not only were we working and kicking ass for Disney to make Avatar the best it can be, but we were also working, on our free time with one another on our own to try to, make the best outcome possible, to try to show people that the union is the best thing that we can do for ourselves. Um, but the responsibility felt huge. The idea of working together as artists to bargain against the employer feels kind of terrifying because it's made to feel intimidating. They want you to feel like you have no agency of your on your own. You're kind of just a free agent that comes and goes, and there's no solidarity with anyone else. Just you get sort of a survivorship bias. You're just as long as I'm still making it, instead of working together and realizing that, you have strength in numbers. Um, it takes courage to do it. But then there's also some artists that say, joining a union, they're worried that they're going to lose their pay. They're already doing well. They like their pay. They might not, they obviously get the same benefits as the rest of us, but their pay, kind of smooths things over. But that's not what, like, a few of us have said already. That's not what we do. The union brings up the bottom. If you're already up at the top making decent money, fantastic. That's where you stay. And you can also get the same yearly increases and things like that. But we want to raise the bottom up, and some people are worried about titles that they're going to be like somehow made more junior or demoted somehow with titles. But before we go and negotiate, we plan out all these articles and all these wants and needs that we have. So that is all determined beforehand before we go up, and we don't let the company decide what we're going to be called. Um, and Maggie talked about a lot of what the LEI, Disney, Fox, Lightstorm contract got us. But just to hit on a few more things, we had the recall rights with rate preservation, so the trajectory of increases will stay. So if like we worked in 2025 and they don't hire us back till 2027 or something like that, um, uh, our pay will go up over those years. Um, Work from home preservation. So, for some reason they thought that, people working in post-phys or after the fact all need to be in the office, but a lot of us don't. And a lot of us, just to be able to live, have to live in a house or apartment farther away from the studio. Um, and then severance pay. Some people were not guaranteed that. And we were able to win that for, you're there for a couple of years and they were just going to let you go, just free, just goodbye, without any help. So those are huge. And then health benefits is amazing. People don't realize that, like, when you start trying to talk to everyone about the union and you're calling and you're gathering data, everyone thinks that there's 1,000 different needs, and a lot of a lot of our needs can be covered with just five different things, and mainly increase in minimums, better pay, better health care, um, job security, pension. Those things are huge, and uh, having a safety net of the healthcare in between jobs is well, it helped me out personally immensely, and I cannot be alone in this. When you need a little help when you're in between jobs. When we were still negotiating, sitting at the table with the lawyers and the Disney reps, where they're telling us that we don't really want what we're asking for, and it's not important, and they don't have anything in the budget, and when they do, they make billions. Um, I started to have health problems, and I'd go to the doctor, but since I was still under the health insurance that Disney was providing, I and the kind of money I was getting, I do what a lot of people do, where you just ignore it. You just ignore the health issues that you're having until, it gets too serious or something. But thank God we won and the insurance kicked in, and I started going to the doctors, I started going to specialists, and well, they found out that I had some of the early signs of cancer. So it was such a huge savior. Being able to not worry about the price because the insurance that we have is so amazing, and the what do you call it, the deductible is so low. Um, I would I was the doctor said they did a biopsy afterwards. They said that by December or so, it would have been cancerous. So I would have had a whole different trajectory I would have had to go on. So they were able to remove those things, and I'm better now. My mom has had to go through cancer and chemo, and it's terrible. So that sort of safety net, we all deserve that. We all deserve that sort of help when you're in between jobs. Um, so that's the kind of thing that you need to fight for and realize that the companies are if you're waiting for them to change their minds, they're not. You don't hold your breath. Like we have to do this ourselves. We have to fight for ourselves and say, hey, we're important. We need money. We want to live our lives. We don't want to just make, enough to just survive. We want to live. So if that's like the one key takeaway from my little TED talk here is we need to speak up for ourselves. Negotiate for better pay, benefits, and conditions, the only way to improve our industry. A little over 60% or so, if I remember correctly, of the people at Avatar in our bargaining unit were 60% were making just enough to survive, just barely making it or less. Some people are making like $18 an hour. You can make more at Panda Express. The companies will continue to whittle away our perks and healthcare wages unless we push back against them. So with that, I'd like to send it over to James Dornoff.
Hello, my name is James Dornoff, and I've been in visual effects for almost 25 years at this point. I've been a non-union in VFX for 25 years. I haven't had the benefits. It's always been something that I've had to carry on for myself for health care, for doing my own retirement. These are all things that I've had to provide for myself for this entire career. I don't have a lot of stuff banked at this point, and it needs to change. So like I said, I've been in this industry for 25 years, both on the vendor side and the client side. On the vendor side, I was working at places like Rhythm and Hughes, where I did Garfield Tale of Two Kitties. I was at Cafe FX, where I did John Adams and a few other projects. And I was at Scanline for many years, doing projects like Batman versus Superman and various projects. I also did Avengers there, a few different things. And then I was also on the client side for a bunch of things. So way long ago, I was on the original Matrix movies, and I spent many years on back and forth between vendors and on client side. Even recently doing a project for Apple called "Fly Me to the Moon," and I was on this organizing journey for the past 5 years as an organizer and part of the initial organizing committee. We gathered to do what was considered undoable. Through the open forums, we started in mid-2020, and our Slack creation in 2021, Our main mantra was finding out what it was like for VFX workers across the US and to hear your diverse voices and concerns. We were looking at the grand scale instead of localizing the movement. Ultimately, we started teaming up with IATSE, which gave us the proper tools and foundation for how to organize our collective voices. When Special Rep Ben Spate came on board in August of 2022, he taught us how to have effective organizing conversations, and we finally established a solid system of aiming localized goals at specific targets. When VFX workers M and Maggie formally took staff positions at IATSE, as organizers, we gained the infrastructure and leadership to take us across the finish line. It was through our one-to-one discussions with individuals from targeted shows and studio that got them mobilized with their crews. It was discussions to talk about how we can unify and build a stronger, sustainable VFX career, setting a new standard not just for ourselves, but for the generation of shows after us, so that we can focus on our work and not the financial benefits that should already be ours. Today, as you've heard, we have proven victories. We have supermajority votes. Our first to certify a union was on September 12th, 2023 for Marvel and Disney, and ratified contracts that now give us proper seat and voice at the table we long deserve. We exercised our voices, we collected our numbers, and we made a call to action. We aren't done. We have only just started, but the hardest part is over. We made it happen when we were told we couldn't. We now have a proven track record and the know-how to make this happen, but it only happens with your involvement. To keep the momentum alive, we need you to talk to your peers, gather your localized teams on your various upcoming projects, have discussions to keep the dialogue going, spread the word, and collect together to bring this foundation that only a union can provide to make sure that we have the proper benefits, pay scale, overtime, turnaround, and the guardrails of protection in our industry that everyone else on set or in the office already have. We have an entire industry of people with experience behind us with IATSE, which is why we need to continue this journey with them. I'm a volunteer organizer and speak on behalf of non-union members who work on some of the major campaigns. I don't work for IATSE. I still have not been part of any formal union yet. Hopefully I will soon. As volunteers in our call to action, it is our call to action that is needed. Engaging in discussions to make this happen on your next job or studio. If we don't know who you are or where you are at, we can't hear your unique voice and concerns to make sure that this union works for you. Engage with volunteers like us, with members from the IATSE, members from this IATSE group. Contact the organizing team at vfx@iatse.net to set up a time to discuss how you can help build VFX worker power across the industry. Ultimately, it's your united voices that will vote, that will build a contract and negotiate. We are fighting for something that is beyond just you and I here, but it's something for all of us. With that, I'm passing it on to Mac Robinson.
Thank you, James. My name is Mac Robinson, and I've been in the industry for about 11 years, starting in 2014, and I've been involved in organizing efforts for a little over 3 years now, since October of 2022. Since I started in 2014, I've seen a lot of changes in both the attitude towards organizing and in the technological advancements that we've had in our industry. In the last 3 years, we've made so much progress in contract negotiations for Marvel, Disney, Lightstorm, Apple, and SNL, just to name a few. We've been battling for healthcare, fair pay, overtime, meal penalties, and pension, which has just been a huge thing for me as I'm trying to start a family within the next year. Those are all things personally that were very important to me. And we've also fought for protection against AI as well, taking over certain roles in our industry and helping to keep the jobs open for people who really want to get into VFX. And though I won't lie, it has been slow going at times, it felt like, but all these milestones have been worth it. And they really show that alone, we haven't had much of an impact, but since coming together, we've gained so much. And keeping this momentum going is only going to help us build a stronger foundation for a better working future for VFX as a whole. And with your help, we can reach all of our milestones in 2026 and more. And the best thing you can do is just participate. It could be as little as one meeting or as much as joining an organizing or negotiating committee. Just your participation will make all the difference. As I said before, together, if we show up as a community, which I've seen time and time again, it'll make such a huge difference to everyone. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Meg.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Kreiselmuth, IATSE representative and organizer for visual effects workers. I've been a full-time organizer since May of last year, following more than 20 years as an in-house visual effects compositor at major studios, including Disney, Sony Pictures, Netflix, and Amazon. It's been incredible to see visual effects artists finally starting to organize. To see workers who have spent years behind the scenes of our favorite films and shows stand up and say, "We deserve fair pay, sustainable hours, and a voice." Now we've proven that visual effects workers can organize supermajority support across diverse job roles and employers, have a seat at the bargaining table, negotiate real solutions through union contracts, and hold those employers accountable. But let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, it's great that some studio side visual effects workers have unionized, but what about everyone else? What about the non-union artists I've spent my 20-year career working alongside? The vendor side workers, project-to-project contract workers, flat day rate workers grinding late nights just to stay competitive. IATSE is here to support these workers too, with the same resources and organizing methods that led to the victories you have already heard about today. The reality is this industry can feel brutal right now. Productions are slowing down, budgets are tightening, and everyone's being told to do less or to do more with less. Less staff, less time, less security. So when we talk about organizing, it's understandable for people to think now is not the time. I just need to keep my head down and hang on until 2026. But here's what I've learned since shifting my career from a visual effects artist to a full-time organizer at IATSE. The perfect time never comes. Every group of workers who stood up in solidarity at Lightstorm, Disney, Marvel, Saturday Night Live, did it in less than ideal conditions. They acted because waiting around wasn't helping them. Even in a tough labor market, there are things non-union workers can do today. Start connecting with your peers. Have honest conversations about what's working and what's not. Gather non-work contact info to spot the natural leaders on your crew and engage with them from the start. Begin tracking and documenting working conditions. So when the time comes to organize, you have the facts. And most importantly, you can reach out to us at IATSE, to the visual effects reps and organizers who've been through this. We'll share guidance, tools, and experience to help you build on the success of past campaigns. You don't have to do this on your own. Building solidarity isn't about waiting for a contract. It's about taking action by building trust, one conversation at a time. Since joining IATSE, I've seen incredible momentum, not just in visual effects, but across other crafts and departments that once thought unionizing was impossible. I've seen productions that used to push back against organizing Start to understand that fair treatment leads to better work. I've seen artists who've once felt powerless realize that their skills and talent are the leverage. What gives me the confidence is this. When visual effects artists talk to each other, when they realize they share the same struggles and the same goals, goals like work-life balance, more time with family, access to affordable healthcare, things start to shift. And that shift is happening right now. Don't wait for the right time to act. The industry will always have uncertainty. The conditions will never be perfect. But your power comes from being proactive and taking the initiative, from organizing, from connecting with each other, and from refusing to let fear decide your future. And to quote the late Congressman and civil rights leader, John Lewis, my personal hero, it's always the right time to do the right thing. And as we look forward to 2026, let's make it a year of renewed urgency, a year where visual effects workers take ownership of their craft and their conditions. Because the truth is, no one is coming to fix this industry for us. It's up to you and me collectively. But together in solidarity, we absolutely can do this. And M, I defer to you.
Thank you so much, Maggie, and to all of our workers and members. Just a recap, okay? So for everyone here who's wondering, what is my next step if I want to join this union, if I want to help grow this union in 2026? Number one, talk to your coworkers, right, about joining the VFX union. Number two, once you've had those conversations, you can reach out and schedule a time to meet with one of us on this call for a small group meeting. Ultimately, we'll make a plan together and we'll try and build up support by working with the other VFX workers in your workplace to build supermajority support, which puts you in a position where you know you're going to achieve your victory. And then that means you can win your union recognition and a union contract. That's the name of the game. So it seems simple, but as everyone has said here, it can be very difficult. It can take commitment of time, emotional resources, physical resources, but ultimately, I think you've heard the fruits of that labor are so, so worth it, and only collectively are we going to be able to change things for the better in visual effects. I'm going to pass it back to Anthony for questions.
So thank you, Em. We have an opportunity for any of our attendees to ask any of us some questions, the floor is now open for that. If we have a little bit of a lull in question asking, we can go to a couple of chat questions that might be teed up to go over at this time. So if anyone who is attending would like to ask us a question at this time, please feel free to raise your hand and we will go ahead and answer that for you. And it's no pressure at all. We'll obviously, if we don't see a big flow of questions, we'll have some information that comes out after this meeting. And of course, this is being recorded, so we can go back and look at it. But please feel free to ask any questions of us at this time. If not, we can also move into a couple chat questions and answers and go from there. So I'll give it a couple moments. Let us for a moment, if Em or Maggie, do we have any of the chat questions that we can put out and just do a quick queue and then answer it just so folks can hear?
Yeah, I'm happy to take. We have a question regarding, ultimately, what are we doing? What can VFX workers do about the threats that we've all been familiar with of outsourcing, runaway productions, foreign tax subsidies? Um, And ultimately, the old adage is, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu, right? So for us, the number one thing, as you've heard, is in order to have a voice, in order to be able to negotiate, in order to find a way to force the employer to do what we want and stop doing what we don't want, we need to have the legal right to collective bargaining, which comes through organizing. And that allows us to have access to not only, as you've heard, negotiations and victories in a contract, which provides for protections against outsourcing, against replacement by AI or new technology, but also lets us participate, as you saw, in the larger IATSE union organization, which has a very committed and successful relationship with lawmakers in Sacramento, in Washington, D.C., and others, where you can go, as VFX workers did just a year and a half ago, to Capitol Hill and talk with members like Adam Schiff and others about the plight that's facing non-union and, all VFX workers and what we can do about that. And ultimately, that is how we're able to address that, as individuals, right? I mean, these are large scale trends throughout the industry, but we ultimately, as a union, are able to have a collective voice that's powerful, that's listened to, that's respected, and ultimately can really make a difference for, not just the VFX workers on the call, but all of the members of IATSE who, equally are affected by these things.
Thank you, M. Jonathan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Just really quick, with our contracts, as Maggie mentioned, we had a 3-year contract. So that means if they try to make the film in America touch the ground at all here, they have to hire us back. And that's a very good chance of that happening because a lot of talent do not want to go to New Zealand where Jim and Disney would like to be able to take Avatar production and post. So and the idea that they're going to just try in those 3 years make the film over in New Zealand all at the same time without the tacit knowledge of all the people that have worked on the film is crazy. You can't keep the same caliber of work from just trying to look at internal wikis and tutorial videos. So the fact that we have a 3-year contract, they in 2028 they couldn't start making the film if it's going to come out in 2029, Avatar 4. So there's ways that we can stop them from just trying to, jump ship to another country and then, use the labor over there for everything, within our contracts.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. One of the other questions that comes up and is posted is, what if I am a current member of the Visual Effects Union and take a job with an employer who is not under contract? So this does come up frequently, and I'm glad someone asked it today. But ultimately, what we ask of you is, of course, to take the position and to reach out to one of us, one of your organizers, one of your fellow visual effects members, and again, start that conversation and that communication, because they're obviously going to be, or they're already on our plan board to organize. And obviously, when we have people that are in the union already that are working for those entities or shops or contractors, that just helps us, organize better and communicate with more artists that are already part of our community. So always feel free to take that position, but also notify us. Let us know what the parameters of the job are and get us going on a plan to organize. So thank you for that question. Maggie, do you have anything on your end?
Um, as a question, I know that a common question is that there are people who work, who are new to the industry. They don't have much experience or even a network of people, but I feel the young generation, they want to do something, make a change. They have the energy to do so, and but they don't feel empowered enough to do anything about it. So, where do they start?
Understood. So I will still see if any hands come up and see if anyone feels curious about joining our live Q&A. And it's okay if that's not the case. Ultimately, I will start to basically thank everybody who's joined us today, no matter where you are. We appreciate your attendance and spending time with us. I especially want to thank all of our guest speakers and those that joined us, including Vice President Miller, Vice President Holtgrew. Actually, if Vice President Holtgrew, do you have a moment? If you can go ahead and mention anything that is on your mind after this meeting?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. As I also was an organized worker, I come out of reality television. I was a camera operator and a DP, and that I was there at a time when it was non-union and we organized, and it was very scary. I've been on the picket line. I've seen how employers can treat people, but I look at that industry now and it is a much more highly unionized world. My friends have healthcare. A lot of them have, children now, and that really benefits them. So I just want to say, um, reach out to one of the organizers, have a conversation. There's no commitment then that you have to act any certain way. So if you're unsure, Maggie, Em, Chrissy, all our folks are happy to just kind of walk through the process with you. So I know it's a rainy day in LA, and thank you for joining us. And I'll let the group wrap it up.
Yeah, Vanessa, Mac, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question, an anonymous question from one of the attendees. What would you say to somebody who is on board with unionizing and really likes everything that we're saying and agrees with everything that we're saying, but is still a little bit afraid to kind of just jump in, or someone who doesn't feel ready to kind of help organize or like lead the push in their specific niche?
I'll ask Em or Maggie if you could respond, please.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were hoping to achieve in this meeting because, and there's a few other questions regarding, well, we might be only on shows for a couple months, or what about folks who are, haven't worked in a while? And ultimately, what about the fact that sometimes this can take a long time to go from organizing to negotiating to ultimately winning a contract? But we are a community, right? We are VFX workers. We, know that no whether you're working at one studio or the other, you're doing the job that you are trained to do with similar people, and it's ultimately a community of workers. We are the VFX union, even if we don't have a membership card yet, right? We are all future members. And so it's going to take a commitment from every level of people, not just people who are going to be on a show for 2 years and can be throughout the whole organizing, negotiating, and ultimately winning a contract. But, every single person who wants to see this change, who wants to work under these contracts is, as you heard from James Dornoff, as you heard from Mac, as you heard from Jonathan, these are people who began without the expectation that they would be able to achieve these incredible wins in their first contracts. But because of their commitment to changing this industry through collective action, have been able to win these contracts. And it's brick by brick, studio by studio. That is how we're compelled to organize under the law. But because of your commitment, and if you really care, again, this is our contact information. You can reach out to us whether you're working or not. What we need to do is continue building an organization which is made up of you all. And that is how we are going to be able to overcome the structural challenges which do present to us. Like sometimes people are only on shows for a short time, or sometimes people have periods of unemployment. I mean, that's just how the industry is. That's how it is for other entertainment workers as well. That's why it's so important for us to be able to get things like portable healthcare that travels from job to job and doesn't end when your job ends. So ultimately, the answer to those questions is keep in touch with us, keep in touch with each other. If you care about this, talk to your coworkers, talk to your friends, talk to other people you know, and find a time to contact us and start building an organizing committee or join one that's already in process, because that's how we are able to create a sustainable campaign, which can not only win these unanimous elections, but also win these incredible contracts and ultimately collectively change the entire industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Em. Well, everybody, again, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your attendance. We look forward to having more meetings like this. We, of course, for those that are part of the IATSE Visual Effects Union, will have our general membership meeting schedule that will be put out, along with our newsletter that has all kinds of pertinent information that you can keep track with us on. Those who are still thinking about and or have questions about joining our community, please feel free to reach out to any one of us that are on this call today. Of course, you can see the contact information that's on your screen right now. We suggest you use it. And it could be a simple question. It could be something that we, collaborate on, or it could be just something as quick as, how about a cup of coffee? So we're here to answer any questions you might have, any experiences that you might want to share with us, that we're happy to share our experiences with you. And other than that, if there's anyone else on the panel like to have any closing remarks, I will go ahead and wrap it up. Anybody on the panel? Oh, I see James. I'm sorry. I see both hands. I see the yellow hand and I see your real hand. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And to expand on what Em and Anthony and everybody here has been saying is that you can reach out to us, and we're going to put it out there that even though you're sending an email, let's say to vfx@iatse.net, you can say, hey, I'd love to speak to one of the organizers. I'd like to speak to someone. You don't have to speak to someone who's employed at IATSE, but that's a way to reach, and then they will come back and contact us. So using that email, vfx@iatse.net, and say, hey, I'd love to speak to an organizer. And that's all you have to say. And then they can contact us. And if some of you know us, you can just contact us personally as well. But just to expand a little bit out what Em and Anthony are saying, is what can you do when you don't want to necessarily be seen or be too public? It's having a simple conversation, having a conversation with someone who is or isn't part of IATSE, fine either way, and discussing, maybe just talking about terms, but having those one-on-one discussions and then learning about it. And maybe it's a I don't want to be too active, but you can give us information in the sense of giving us maybe who you are, who's on your crew, things like that, so we can start helping to build. Something simple as that is really huge for us and really helpful for us. And we know that the process definitely takes a while, but I've been involved in multiple campaigns and I'm not in a union yet. And it is part of the process. But the thing is, the more that you do, the more that we unionize, the more chances I have at being in the union for Marvel, Disney, or Apple, so that when I'm on a project the next time, I'll be covered. And it's the more places we see, the more places that we can go to, the bigger community we'll have, the more and more ability will become national, and we will be protected overall. And again, going from job to job, studio to studio, being protected with these rights. So that's that. I just want to put a little bit of info on that.
Excellent point, James. We appreciate that input. Okay, we're going to go ahead and
Hey,
wrap
Anthony,
up.
Maggie's got her hand up.
Oh, Maggie, I'm. You know what? Somehow the hand is disappearing in my screen. I apologize. Go for it, Maggie.
I just want to just echo what James was saying. Myself as an organizer, I go out there, I talk to as many people as possible. When I started volunteering, organizing at IATSE, I was in between jobs. I was unemployed. I was working project to project. And, for me, it was more important for me to just get things established and help in whatever way possible. A lot of that, most of that work has to do with talking to people, letting people know, hey, this is happening. People want this. It's obvious in your vote in the poll that we had today. 100 of you said yes, you are willing to, say yes to your union. And when since becoming an organizer, talking to people, it's incredible to me that people don't even know that we have contracts with Lightstorm, Marvel, Disney, SNL. And we're continuing to, add to that list. People are unaware about the work that we've been doing, and that's why we have created this forum. It's to inform the public that this is happening. But we need to expand upon the work that we've been doing. And so this is why we are relying on the workers to reach out to us, to talk to us if they want to, have their studio flip and become union too. So it begins with you and what are you willing to do? How are you willing to, contribute? What are you willing to contribute to help with this effort to broaden our reach? First step is to reach out to us. Email us at VFX at IATSE.net. There are maybe a couple of questions left here in the chat that we might not have been able to get to, but if you have more questions, if you thought of something, tomorrow or even next week, reach out to us. We'll respond.
Maggie, Mac, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think there was just one question in the Q&A panel that is still open that I wanted to address, and it's from an anonymous attendee. The question is, could you go into any further detail on why animation supervisors were able to be included in the Disney Marvel contract, but not VFX supervisors? Just curious on where the National Relations Board and the law drew the line between those two titles.
Em, do you want to take that?
Yeah, basically, we're fighting to make sure to be as inclusive as possible. There are some questions about, people with supervisor in their title, like on-set supervisor or animation supervisor, who we're fighting to include in these contracts. The overall VFX supervisor is, unfortunately, due to the statutory supervisory exclusion from the NLRB, we're unable at this point to represent those folks and the producers. But we have, a wall-to-wall union that's covering the below-the-line workers right now. And we're fighting to make sure that people like, even when you're called as I was at one point, production supervisor, instead of production manager, that's kind of a way that employers use to give you a title, which also then might exclude you from collective bargaining. And we don't accept that argument. And ultimately, when we're able to, with a board that is functioning and the ability to make precedent, we want to make sure that we are able to, ultimately represent those folks. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of support from those positions, the supervisors and the producers. And right now, we also, are really laser focused on representing the most amount of people with visual effects in front of their job title as possible. So really, we are compelled, by the law as it exists for organizing. And we're also, focused on winning, and, representing as many visual effects workers as we can so we can create a really strong base and then ultimately grow to include every single person with visual effects in front of their title, because, ultimately we're stronger together. So the more people we have, the more power we have, and we are going to continue fighting to be as inclusive as possible. So ultimately, it's not really us making those determinations, it's the employer and the law, So our job is to try and overcome as much as we can, but also be strategic and make sure that we're able to win contracts which can represent workers, which is what we've been doing.
Thank you, Em. Stephen Percy, I see your hand up, please. Go ahead.
I think actually it's just going to be panelists who are able to talk here, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, then, Stephen, I apologize. We'll not be able to have that, but please contact us at our reach out VFX at IATSE.net, and we will have that answered for you and share with the group at a later date. Okay, everyone, again, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your time, your energy. And again, he stated, please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time, and we'll be happy to have a simple or a more challenging conversation. And that way we can get the ball rolling, no matter where you are, where you're working, or where you might be working in the future. Thank everyone, and hope you have a and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
everybody.